Project 2025 explained what to know about the right-wing policy map ahead of tonight's VP debate. Senator J.D. Vance, R. Ohio, is likely to be asked about Project 2025 when he goes head-to-head against Minnesota Governor Tim Walz at Tuesday's vice presidential debate, as the Harris campaign has lobbed frequent attacks against the wide-ranging blueprint for a potential second Trump term, and Vance has close ties to the organization behind it. Project 2025, spearheaded by conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation, with help from more than 100 other conservative groups, is a multi-part plan for the next conservative administration, namely if former President Donald Trump regains the White House, which includes a LinkedIn-style database for presidential personnel hopefuls, training programs for executive branch positions, and an as-yet unreleased playbook, laying out what Trump should do in his first 180 days. Though the project is led by the Heritage Foundation and other private third-party groups and is not formally tied to Trump, who has tried to distance himself from the operation, its proposals were developed in part by former members of his administration and other Trump allies, and the ex-president has previously praised Heritage for its policy work. Vance holds even deeper ties to the Heritage Foundation, penning the introduction to a 2017 Heritage Foundation report and President Kevin Roberts' forthcoming book, with Roberts telling Politico in March the senator is absolutely going to be one of the leaders, if not the leader, of our movement. The project has drawn the most attention for its mandate for leadership, a 900-page proposed policy agenda that describes itself as a plan to unite the conservative movement and the American people against elite rule and woke culture warriors, laying out plans for all aspects of the executive branch. Personnel. Project 2025 broadly proposes to insert far more political appointees who are ideologically aligned with the president into the executive branch, replacing many of the nonpartisan career civil servants who serve in it now, proposing an executive order that would put political appointees into any confidential, policy-determining, policy-making, or policy-advocating positions, which Trump previously did at the end of his presidency, but President Joe Biden then overturned it. Federal agencies. It proposes a scaled-down federal government, including the abolishment of multiple agencies, including the Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whose remaining departments would be folded into other agencies or privatized, including the Transportation Security Administration. Transgender rights. Transgender rights and gender identity beyond biological sex are roundly rejected, with such steps as reinstating the ban on transgender Americans serving in the military, prohibiting public school educators from referring to students by anything other than their birth name and pronouns without parental permission, and ensuring no federal funds are used to provide gender-affirming care. DEI and LGBTQ rights. Project 2025 seeks to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion programs from throughout the federal government and in universities. And while it doesn't outlaw same-sex marriage, it supports nuclear families that include a married mother, father, and their children, and calls for restricting laws that bar discrimination on the basis of sex to exclude sexual orientation and gender identity. Climate change. The proposal would undo much of the federal government's climate work, including by leaving the Paris Climate Agreement, overhauling the Department of Energy to promote oil and natural gas and de-emphasize green energy sources, removing the Department of Agriculture's focus on sustainability and curtailing climate research. Abortion. While Project 2025 doesn't explicitly call for an abortion ban, it would take many steps to restrict the procedure, including directing the Food and Drug Administration to revoke its approval of abortion drug mifepristone, using the Comstock Act to block any abortion equipment or medication from being mailed, which abortion rights advocates have said would be a backdoor way to ban abortion, barring federal funds being used to provide health care coverage for abortion, and requiring states to report all abortions that take place there to the federal government. Education. Project 2025 emphasizes a school choice policy that directs public funds to be used for students to attend private or religious schools, bars critical race theory from being taught in federally funded schools, and advocates for legislation that would allow parents to sue schools they feel have acted improperly, such as by teaching controversial subjects or requiring students to disclose information about their religious beliefs. Student loans. Student loan relief efforts would come to an end, including the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program and income-driven repayment plans. As the proposal states, borrowers should be expected to repay their loans. Big Tech. TikTok would be banned, and the proposal calls for reforming Section 230, which shields tech companies and social media networks from being sued over content on their platforms, and allowing laws like those passed in Florida and Texas that seek to punish social media companies who ban or suspend users based on their viewpoints. Justice Department. Project 2025 calls for a top-to-bottom overhaul of the DOJ and FBI that gets rid of what it calls an unaccountable bureaucratic managerial class and radical left ideologues, proposing an agency that would be more focused on violent crime and filing litigation that's consistent with the president's agenda and filled with far more political appointees. It also proposes prohibiting the FBI from investigating misinformation or making politically motivated moves against U.S. citizens. Taxes. Project 2025 would seek to get rid of current tax rates and most deductions and credits, instead proposing a 15% rate for anyone under the Social Security wage base, $168,000 in 2024, and 30% for taxpayers earning more than that, which means the lowest income taxpayers will now pay more and some higher earners will pay less. And it would also lower the corporate income tax rate to 18%. Federal Reserve. The project seeks to reform the Federal Reserve by taking the monetary steering wheel out of its hands and returning it to the people, which the authors propose could be done by getting rid of the government's control over the nation's money entirely, instead leaving it up to banks, or returning to the gold standard, in which the dollar's value would be tied to a specific weight of gold. Foreign relations. Project 2025 emphasizes opposing China, which it describes as a totalitarian enemy of the United States, and directs the U.S. to pull out of international organizations when they don't serve the administration's interests, including the World Health Organization and various United Nations agencies. Healthcare. Project 2025 does not seek to overturn the Affordable Care Act, but would make significant cuts to Medicaid and impose work requirements to receive coverage, as well as reform Medicare, including by making Medicare Advantage, a paid supplement to Medicare, the default option for patients. Vance and Walz are set to debate in Philadelphia Tuesday night, their first time going head-to-head in the presidential election. The debate comes as Walz and the Harris campaign have used Project 2025 as a main line of attack against Trump and Vance, holding its extreme proposals up as a key reason for voters to oppose Trump's candidacy. Walz has repeatedly mentioned Project 2025 while campaigning and tied Vance to it, saying at a September rally, "My opponent, Senator Vance, said that when they get power and they will use the Project 2025, they need to be ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power." Walz was falsely citing a quote from 2021, before Project 2025 was written, in which Vance, who was not yet a senator, told a conservative publication that conservatives really need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power. Vice President Kamala Harris brought the issue up when she debated Trump in September, calling Project 2025 a detailed and dangerous plan that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. The Harris campaign also updated the policy section of its website last month with information on Project 2025, with Harris's policies on a range of issues, each accompanied by a section that contrasts the vice president's views with Project 2025.